So the objective of this exercise is to create a role and a profile, right? Uh, a role is specifically uh, a list of transactions you're allowed to run, right? A list of transactions you're allowed to run. Yes. Profile is the level of authority you have for each of these transactions, right? For example, you say you can create a user, right? However, I may not allow you to delete the user. That'll be a level of authority, right? Now you might have access to a transaction. You can only view the user created. You cannot even create the user, right? So that's just the level of authority I'm giving you, right? Or I can say there's a functional authorization. You can create a user, but only for this company, right? Or this department. That's another question, right? You can create users, but only for particular company, not for everybody, right? That's another one. So the generic transaction for this we can actually go down to tools. Uh, User maintenance, or actually we go to administration. Um, we can go to client administration. Um, Client copy is not the one. Let's go to user maintenance. User maintenance. So you see SU01, SU01D, SU10, user maintenance, SUGR maintain user groups, right? SUCOM. So you user groups, like logon groups assigned to instances. We can do that as well. So user groups can be maintained. Now if you use mass maintenance, you can obviously use transaction like SU10. So what you do, you can actually go and put a user, so for example, user one, and you can go and put a certain range of users, right? User by profile, user by logon data, user by user groups. You can also put by user groups. So it's going to change that data for all the users, right? So that's another transaction. So I normally use this a lot of times, SU10, because for us it's much easier to basically go and change for a bunch of users. So right? By object, by value, by this profile. So you can, these are the transactions to check your profile, uh, and these are the transactions to check your authorization here, authorization objects, transactions, list of transactions that you are allowed, right? Where you list, comparison. So all those are kind of admin stuff, right? Now the roles and profiles. So this is all about your reports. Let's go to creation of users. So client copy, where are we? SMLT, language maintenance, that is fine. User maintenance, SUGR, central role administration. That's the PFCG, right? So PFCG is for roles and profiles. User mass data reconciliation, PFUD, preferred. SUPC, generate profiles for roles. So you have a role, but you don't have a profile for it, right? So let's create a role and a profile, right? So we'll create finance manager, Z underscore manager, right? Uh, we're going to call this as finance manager. So this person can create master data as well as post GL entries and reconcile AR banking, right? Right. So you will go ahead and save this row. Now you want to, you have two methods of selecting. If you remember the transaction codes, you can do that. If you don't remember the transaction code for reports, transaction, and others, right? You can also select by menu, step menu, which is like you select from the menu path. It'll actually take you to the SAP menu, and then you go and select individual transactions because you may not be familiar with the T codes, then you can go out and do that as well, right? So it's building that up, menu tree display. So it shows up like this. So I say I'm this accounting. So I'm going to allow this guy financial accounting. So either you can say all or you can go with the sub objects. Okay. So I'm just saying all because I want to be quick on this one. We can do a lot of so those are the ones allowed to it, right? So I will transfer. So they look like this. So that's your accounting, financial, GL, AR, AP, and banking. Now, if suppose I want this allow guy to also create roles, right? Roles and basically users. So what I will give is I will go and directly type SU01, and now this guy can also create roles, which you know normally would not be the case, but just for the demo purpose, we are just trying to show, right? I have a menu path, so this has been created. I cannot see that SU.
It has gone inside that banking.
Okay.
It should be root.
Should be okay. Yeah. So you can put it wherever you like for that user, but because I've not generated it, I can move it around. Right. So you save this. So now after this, you have to create what we call as a profile. Now profile are normally SAP driven the naming convention. So you can't give your name because it can clash with what SAP is creating. So it will propose a profile number to you. So I click on this hand. So they are handing over the profile number to you. It doesn't matter. It's much simpler for us, right? So it says that's my profile number, right? I go and change authorization data. Just save. The more the objects, the more time it's going to take, right? So since this is kind of not a heavy duty server, so that's why it basically it's, so what happens is for each field you have authorization object behind, right? Allowed. A lot of the fields don't have authorization objects, so you'll have to get your technical guy to go and create authorization objects. For example, you create a custom field. Now if they want to control that custom field, you have to create authorization objects. So authorization objects back for each. So now say look, this guy I want to control to certain areas only, right? So let's say 1000. So that's mine. This is functional control. This area. I'm just giving credit control area. Account type. What account type? Assets, customers, vendors. So you can choose all this, right? These are all authorization, functional authorization control. Controlling area, division. Um, Sales organization, again 1000. Shipping point. Shipping points in the system. 2100. I don't know if the sales organization is there, but let's check. Okay. Distribution channel. So whatever you want to limit him to, right? I'm just limited. So these are the functional areas this guy is limited to, right? Not technical. So profile does both functional and technical limitation, right? First of all, functionally you can only go and create stuff in this area, right? So if you want to, if you do not want to restrict him, it's very simple. You click on full authorization button here. Okay. So I will save this. Now you have come to individual fields. Now here is where I can, so the green ones are fine because it looks like they are functional authorizations. So I've done those. The yellow ones are where I can go and do technical authorizations. So we'll go to the yellow one. So schedule manager task list. So you see this, change display execute, right? So you can actually go and change this, right? Create or generate, display, delete. So now I'm adding delete to him. So I've changed his authorization. Create, delete, right? Similarly for these ones, it doesn't know from which plan to which plan. So you can basically give him one plan to kind of work on. So it's kind of a happy, right? So similarly for others, you physically kind of limit them to what they can do. So asset class, which asset class should they work on, right? 1000, right? So so on and so forth, right? So one of the shortest way to, if you want to save time right now, right? I want to give full authorization. I just go to the header, right? I can go here, click on this, and say full authorization, right? Means everything is authorized. And for simply just for saving this, I mean there are thousands of objects, right? I don't want to limit my objects, but I'm kind of adding them there.
To go on each one,
Yeah. Well, yes, wherever it's yellow, you have to just click on the header, and then objects under them, everything gets authorized, right? Now, if you have a kind of a selection to make from authorization of other objects, let's look at what we can select. So you want to add certain authorization objects which are not part of this, right? Let's say a custom authorization object. Then I can go and add those authorization objects. So business rule framework, for example, and those. Those come here. I can add those, right? So that's from the menu tree. From the ready-made authorization, I can also manually, if I know authorization object, I can manually also add one by one. That's like very cumbersome. That's it view. Added that, right? And then in that asset view, you can go and basically say which asset he should be viewing, right? I can manually also enter that, right? So once you are done, you can save this. So once you save it, uh, it's going to ask you, it's not generated. That means you click on this generate button, right? So you click on generate before you come out. So now I have my menu, I have my authorizations covered. The other simple process is to assign it to a user, right? So I can actually technically assign this to any user right from here if it's created. Other thing I can do is I don't want to assign this to user here. I will go and assign this when I create a user, right? So let's do that. So I will save this ready, and I will go back and create a new user, right? Uh, so this guy's last name is Test, first name is Teddy, log on default Teddy Test one, new password, whatever you want to give as a password. His authorization group, you know what authorization groups are there, right? So give him a deadline till today only. I don't want him to go and do the system. So we'll save this piece. But what I've not done is I've not added role. So where's the role? So the role I created was ZFin. So let's try to find ZFin star. So ZFin manager, that's the one I created, right? So this role had profile assigned to it, and that's my profile. When you click on this profile, it tells you what's authorized. Now you ask me what is going to be transported on the profile, like that's the list of objects, right? Now, depending on which table has what data on these objects, will get transported, right? So they'll move. So we save this, right? So when you go back to your profile, you'll see that you have now got a user, right? So it says you did not compare the user, so it's kind of a default function comparison. It'll still work, but it's from a perspective. You just want to make sure it updates all the records, right? That's done. So that completes my entire creation, right? So I go out. Now I can come back in on this one. So which were we were in front of it, right? So it's somewhere in input. So what was our user?
Test user
Test.
1.
Teddy.
Teddy test. Teddy test. Password is entered. Teddy test. Huh? Yeah, I think it was test. Okay, so I'm going to log in and then check. So if you don't know your username, you have a problem. Yeah. So it was called Teddy test. Enter. Okay. So it tells me that something is missing in the assignment, okay? So because we have set up a QA and we did tell it which client, right? So we get a 201.
One of the questions.
Okay. So Teddy test one, we missed out the log on system. There we go. Because we have set up QA for it, we have to give it a log on system. So 500.
Otherwise, it would have gone through.
Yeah, if you had not set up a QA, then it would have gone through. But because we set up a QA, it's kind of troubling us, right? So let's look at it as one. Okay. It should show us the screen or the log on that we kind of initial screen that we finance and maybe just the user authorization, right? Accounting, everything in accounting, everything in GL, receivables, payables, right? Banks. On top of them, I have the special transaction which allows me to create users, right? So now when you go, so this guy can't see anything other than this. That's his restriction. Right? So if you can modify his profile any point of time, right? You can go. So you can go in PFCG and modify, but if he goes to certain other transaction like PFCG, see, you are not authorized to run this transaction because I have not given him that. Okay. Okay, so that's for the user creation. I think we are done with that piece. What we'll do is we'll try to start.